Ciao English Learners, and welcome back to my slow English podcast. My name is Tanya from English with Speaker. I'm so thrilled you're here to improve your English listening skills with me. Today, I've got a travel story for you, a real adventure from my trip to Italy. You know, Italy, the land of delicious pasta, stunning architecture, and, well, sometimes unexpected travel nightmares. This story is all about how a dream Italian getaway took an unexpected turn on the very last day. If you're planning a trip or just love travel stories with a twist, you'll want to stick around for this one. We will also be looking at some phrasal verbs and idioms along the way. So, as many of you know, I'm usually the one in charge of planning our trips. My husband is always happy to go along with my plans, which is perfect. This particular trip was a 4-day whirlwind tour of Italy. We had an ambitious itinerary. Milan, then the beautiful town of Como on Como Lake, followed by charming Bergamo, and finally Sirmione on Lake Garda. We were really trying to pack it all in. For the first 3 days, everything was pretty much perfect. We explored bustling Milan, admired the picturesque scenery around Lake Como, and wandered the historic streets of Bergamo. The weather, however, was playing games with us. It started off lovely, but day by day it was gradually getting worse, a bit more grey and a little chillier. But I felt absolutely fine, full of energy and ready for adventure. Of course, a big part of any trip to Italy is the food. We definitely tucked into some amazing meals. Sometimes we were incredibly lucky, finding little trattorias with the most delicious, authentic dishes. Other times we weren't so lucky. We had a pizza that was burnt to a crisp on the bottom, and another time pasta that was definitely undercooked, a bit too al dente even for Italian standards. But one thing that never let us down, the Aperol Spritz. It was fantastic everywhere we went. We walked miles and miles each day, soaking up the Italian atmosphere, and we were truly impressed by the beauty of the country, right up until that fateful last day. Our final stop was Sirmione, a stunning peninsula town on Lake Garda. We were really looking forward to it. However, when we arrived at our apartment, it didn't quite live up to the photos we had seen online. It was a bit underwhelming. Plus, we rolled in quite late, after 7 p.m. on a Sunday evening. And what does that mean in many parts of Italy on Sunday? You guessed it. All the shops were closed. Not a supermarket or a small grocery store in sight. So we had absolutely nothing to eat in the apartment. We were starving, so we headed out to find a restaurant. We eventually lucked out and found a lake that boasted a beautiful view over Lake Garda. The only problem? It was raining, and not just a little drizzle. It was coming down in sheets. So we saw absolutely nothing of the famous lake view. Still, At least the food was delicious that night, a small silver lining to an otherwise damp and slightly disappointing evening. The next morning, our last day, we woke up ready to explore Sirmione properly before heading back to Milan for our flight. We needed breakfast, but it seemed like only one cafe was open for business in the area we were in. We expected it to be crowded, but surprisingly, it wasn't too bad. We both ordered croque madame. For those of you who don't know, a croque madame is a delicious but very rich French sandwich. It's typically made with ham and cheese, often Gruyere, which is then baked and fried, and finally topped with creamy bechamel sauce and a perfectly fried egg. Definitely a decadent start to the day. I also ordered a latte macchiato with lactose-free milk, as I'm lactose intolerant. About half an hour later, as we started our walk, a strange feeling crept over me. My stomach felt incredibly full and heavy, almost like the food was stuck in my throat, refusing to go down. It was a really uncomfortable sensation. I initially thought it would just pass. Maybe I had just eaten too quickly. So I didn't say anything to my husband. I decided to try and soldier on. But as we were walking around the beautiful, historic, touristic part of Sirmione, which is a sort of semi-island, I gradually felt worse and worse. My stomach discomfort intensified. It was a bit like the weather, which was also taking a nosedive that day. Grey, damp, and generally miserable. This was the day we were heading back to Milan for our flight home. So I thought, okay, I'll just take a nap on the train to Milan and it will go away. Well, as luck would have it, it didn't. In fact, it got progressively worse. I tried my best not to pay attention to it, to push through the discomfort. We even walked around the center of Milan for a bit when we arrived, thinking of doing some last-minute shopping. But then I reached a point where I realized I couldn't go on anymore. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I knew I was about to throw up. I could feel my temperature going up too, and all I wanted to do was to lie down right there on the pavement in the middle of Milan. My husband, bless him, saw how bad I was and immediately took charge. He told me we had to call an ambulance. Now, I really didn't want to do that. Neither of us speaks Italian, and I had no idea how much an ambulance or a hospital visit would cost. And of course, because it was only a 4-day trip, we hadn't bothered with travel insurance. A classic traveler's mistake, I now know. So I talked him out of calling an ambulance and told him to just get me to the bus station. We needed to catch our bus to the airport. The bus journey from Milan to the airport took us about 2 hours, and those 2 hours were an absolute, unmitigated nightmare. I was desperately trying to hold still and control the nausea, but well, let's just say I threw up several times, and thank God for small mercies and dog poop bags. I had completely forgotten to take them out of my handbag before the trip. They were a lifesaver, albeit a slightly embarrassing one. It was humiliating. But what else could I do? When we finally got to the airport, we were desperately trying to find a pharmacy, hoping to get some medicine. But of course, it being Italy, many places either were closed for a long lunch break or just shut down for the day. So, no luck there. I had to pull myself together. I went through check-in, passport control, and security check, all the while trying to act completely normal to show that I was sound and healthy, even though I knew I had a fever and felt dreadful. The time spent waiting at the gate for the plane was not pleasant, to say the least. Then came boarding. I got to my seat, and wouldn't you know it, I was sat next to a very lively Hungarian couple. They were lovely, I'm sure, but they were wearing a lot of perfume. And when you're feeling that nauseous, strong smells are your worst enemy. I just knew how hard that flight was going to be. As soon as the fasten your seatbelt sign was turned off after takeoff, everyone around me started eating their own food. Sandwiches, crisps, all sorts of snacks with different smells. Those 2 hours on the plane were such torture. The flight attendants were very kind. They offered me Coca-Cola, saying it sometimes helps with an upset stomach. I'd heard that before, but I suspected that was more than just a simple stomachache. I was pretty sure I had come down with some sort of food poisoning, either from that breakfast or perhaps even contaminated water. I don't know. When we finally landed, as soon as possible, I made a dash to the nearest bathroom, and yes, I threw up again. But this time, it felt like the last one. Afterwards, I actually felt surprisingly well, much better, although I could still feel the fever hanging around. But the story doesn't quite end there. When I saw my husband meeting me in the arrivals hall, we weren't sitting together on the plane. He looked at me a bit pale and said, "I think I'm coming down with what you have." Oh no! This time we were rushing home for him. When we got home, I checked my temperature and it was 37.4, which wasn't too bad. But during the night and all the next day, it shot up to 38.7. So I had to call off all my English classes for Tuesday and just slept. Basically the whole day. Just needed to sleep it off. By Tuesday evening, thankfully, it all went away. And my husband, he experienced the exact same thing, the same symptoms, just about 12 hours behind me. Misery certainly loves company, as they say. What an end to our Italian adventure. So, what's the moral of this rather unfortunate travel tale? Well, firstly, always, always get travel insurance, even for short trips. You just never know when you might run into trouble. Secondly, perhaps be a little more cautious with very rich foods for breakfast before a long day. It definitely wasn't the souvenir I was hoping to bring back from Italy, but it certainly makes for a memorable story and hopefully a useful English lesson for you. Now let's quickly go over some phrasal verbs and idioms I have used to take an unexpected turn, to change in a surprising way, to stick around, to stay in a place, in charge of, responsible for, go along with, to agree with a plan or decision, pack it all in, to do many things in a short period of time, to play games with, to behave in a tricky or unpredictable way, to tuck into, to eat food with enthusiasm, not so lucky, unfortunate, let someone down, to disappoint someone, to look forward to feel excited about something in the future, to live up to be as good as expected, roll in, to arrive late or casually, in sight, visible, to head out, to leave a place to go somewhere, to luck out, to be fortunate, to come down in sheets, to rain heavily. Silver lining, a positive aspect of a negative situation. Open for business. Ready to serve customers. Creep over. To develop gradually. Go down. To be swallowed and digested. Soldier on. To continue despite difficulties. To take a nosedive. To decline or worsen rapidly, to go away, to disappear, to push through, to continue doing something difficult, to go on, to continue, to wash over, to affect someone suddenly, to throw up, to vomit, to go up, to increase, to take charge, to take control of a situation, to talk someone out of doing something, persuade someone not to do something, to hold still, to stay motionless, to take out, to remove, to get to arrive at a place, to shut down, to close, to pull oneself together, to gain control, to come down with, to start to get an illness, to make a dash for, to run quickly towards something, anger out, to remain in a place, for a symptom to persist, to shoot up, to increase very quickly and suddenly, to call off, to cancel, to sleep it off, to sleep until you feel better, especially after too much alcohol or an illness, run into trouble, to encounter problems, make for, to result in or create something, go over, to review. That was a lot. I hope you found them useful. Have you ever gotten sick while traveling? Or did you have a travel experience that didn't go to plan? I'd love to hear your stories. Share them in the comment section on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in Slow English Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe.